I'm Ellie Dunlop and I'm a dietitian and postdoctoral researcher at Curtin University. Well, aside from being a researcher, I'm mum to two grown-up children. They're 19 and 21 now, and I love cats. My cats are my office assistants when I'm working from home, and they're a huge help. So I've had really wonderful support in MS research from Associate Professor Lucinda Black, who leads the diet and MS team that I work in. She also supervised my PhD, which was in dietary vitamin D, and gave me the opportunity to work in diet and MS research. I think what's really inspired me about this area of research is that there's emerging evidence that we can enable people to make a difference through diet. There are other risk factors for MS that people have very little to no control over, but people can adapt their diet if they have information on what might be helpful. And our research is contributing to evidence that can be used to support dietary advice that will help people that are at risk of or with MS. I think it's that we have got that evidence that people can make a difference through their diet, and that we can help them to find out what can be useful for them. In this project, we're going to look at whether there are dietary factors that might play a role in the onset of MS in children. MS is rarer in children than in adults, but there has been an increase in cases and general awareness of MS in this age group over recent years. And when we've looked at whether diet influences the onset of MS in adults, we've found that things like eating fewer ultra-processed foods and having an overall healthier diet may be beneficial in terms of MS onset. So we want to see whether that's the case in children as well. We're very lucky to have been granted access to data from a Canadian study led by Professor Helen Tremlett at the University of British Columbia. They've collected data on dietary intake for children with MS and also for healthy children that we can compare. And that sort of data is rare globally. As far as we know, there are only a couple of studies that have collected that kind of data. So it's a wonderful opportunity for us to be able to look at this because so little is currently known about the role of diet in childhood onset MS. This research is going to give us insight into whether there are aspects of diet that may influence the likelihood of MS onset in children. A family history of MS can mean that children are at greater risk of developing MS. So the findings of our research may be very important for people with MS who have children of their own. So the information that we'll get from this research might be used as evidence to support dietary advice for children at high risk of getting MS. And from what we've seen so far in our research in adults, it's likely that any dietary factors that are good in terms of MS will be good for overall health as well. It's definitely the people that make working in, I would say, the lab. I don't work in a traditional lab that very often. It's a lot of office-based work, but we have an incredible team of people that make doing this work so enjoyable. And yeah, I think the main challenge is just that the resources to do the work, there's so much work to be done, and I think that's why the work of MS Australia is so important. Yes, I'm just so grateful to MS Australia for the wonderful privilege of this fellowship funding so that we can give something of value back to the MS community. We want to be able to help people to enjoy food that will be good in terms of MS and general health.